Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. So, for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Missouri technical death metal band Ahtme. Their new album, Mephitic, will drop on July 24th via Unique Leader Records. So, technical death metal, Duncan. It's a tricky genre.
I feel that we're giving this as a kind of precursor to there's a chance that Duncan might not like this. I get the feeling that's the setup, because I have said on here before, death metal has to do something really, really interesting or mix itself really, really well with something else for me to lean towards, like, lavishing praise and not saying it sounds generic. So now that you've got that out of the way, Dave, your little fucking... Here's an advisory. Listener discretion is advised. Duncan can sometimes be a tool when it comes to death metal.
Well, all I'm saying is, it's a style that... It's a bit of a double-edged sword, right?
Yes.
I get where you're coming from, because along with the brutal heaviness and the very intricate and complex, and because of that, it can be difficult to digest as a listener. So the question is, how do you find that balance? How do you remain savage and technical, but also memorable at the same time?
I would say Mephitic are onto something. The album Mephitic is onto something by the band whose name I will struggle to pronounce. There's not enough vowels here, and they're in the wrong place. Not like you sent me the single for this one, and I listened through it, and there were shades of, like, other bands that I particularly like, but just a heavier fucking setting. And the first thing I picked out is there was a bit of the hate sphere in here. In fact, I am surprised you've told me that this band is American, because this to me has a more kind of Scandinavian, sort of really, really aggressive feel to it. So I'd like that particular track set sounded like a very heavy hate sphere, and I was like, let's fucking do this. I've listened to this album 3 times all the way through. Now, there's a couple of reasons behind that one. First reason is it is under 40 minutes long. You have a friend in me. You got a friend in me, Dave, if you give me an album which is that length. But also, this one, I think the drummer only has one speed, and I'm fine with that, right? And it is fast as fuck. This guy's feet go at, I mean, obviously being facetious, they do have changes in tempo. But this guy's feet are, like, extraordinarily fast, and really, really interesting. And that's where I suppose a lot of groups maybe use the term technical death metal, for which I think substitutes for really fast. Like, you know what I mean? But there's actually high degrees of technicality throughout this one, whether it's riff proficiency, specifically like the speed going up and down the fretboards, but also the way fills are used. Fills in the drums are used very, very well on this one. And this is before I even get to talk about how punishing the vocals are. But the drum to bass to guitar kind of interest levels piqued me pretty much from start to finish. And this isn't one where it just felt like blast beats from start to finish. There's big sections here that reminded me of, like, really well constructed speed thrash, but just heavier. And then you get the vocals over the top of it, and the vocals are, for lack of a better word, disgustingly heavy. Like, really, just 100%. If you can sing like this, you need to be in a band like this. So yeah, I mean, before we get into talking about the particular high points on the tracks, let me, short convention, Dave, throw your advisory back in your face and say, I actually enjoyed this album quite a bit. Really? So, in your face.
Well, you know, it's it's a balance. It can be done, Duncan. It can be done. You know what I mean?
This is where you tell me you don't like them.
No.
And everything I said was wrong.
There's various ways you can go with this. A good example would be the latest Ulcerate album, right? Which is incredibly technical, but it's like coated in this like melodic dissonance that kind of evens out the brutality.
Yep.
And it leaves a bit of a kind of lasting impression. But an alternative to that is one of my personal favourites.
You don't know what he just winked and nodded at the camera there. Folks, you didn't see that.
Oh yeah, the power of the groove, Duncan. The power of the groove. And that's when Ahtme come sliding into your DMs, Duncan.
It's the power of the groove.
I was extremely happy when this came in for review. I was really excited to listen to this because I remember being pretty impressed with this band's previous release, Sewerborn, which was out in 2018. Mm-hmm. It was a very visceral, technically punishing album. The production had a bit of a kind of filthiness to it. So the band's sound on that album completely kind of lived up to the title. And for a first album, you could hear these guys had like serious potential going forward. This new one is 9 tracks, as you said, about 37 minutes long. Which at first you might think like it's quite a short album for a technical death metal album. If you like, again, compare it to the new Ulcerate, which is like an hour long, or the new what do you call them, Cryptic Shift. It's like 4 tracks and it's like almost 50 minutes long. But I think like a running time like this really works in a band's favour because this album is very Moorish.
Oh yeah.
And at that running time, like you'll easily blast this 2 or 3 times on the bounce and not get tired of it at all. Another reason for that is the amount of variety that you're getting on here. And if you've listened to either of the singles they've released, you'll know what I mean. The tracks on this are packed with like a variety of twists and turns, but each track's been carefully placed in a running order that will like keep you engaged right the way through. Opening track is called Swarm of Fools, and I felt like this one was a very much like a pedal to the metal type track, like just overflowing with like lethal riffs, blast beats, guttural roars. It's fairly rapid. Mm-hmm. For the most part, with only like a couple of moments where they kind of throw in like a mid-paced kind of groove, just to let you catch your breath for a sec.
Not for long though. That's
not
the
at
thing
all.
I love. They're like, right, and no, you're not relaxing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a
totally.
difficult album to run to, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You kind of constantly feel like you have to go faster.
Yeah. Yeah, that first track kind of it kind of put me in mind of like the faster material from Pinnacle of Bedlam, which was an album by Suffocation. It's not like in a rip-off kind of way, but more just the kind of attack, the ferocity of the song. That's followed up by Putrid Perforation, which was one of the
alliteration, Dave.
Yeah, yes.
There's a lot of it on the titles, by the way.
Yeah, difficult to say. This was one of the singles, and it is an absolute belter of a track. Definitely feels this one has more of a kind of Decapitated style balance to it, where they kind of allow the grooves to have a bit more of an impact. The drumming, as you mentioned, like on even on this track in particular, Jordan Plummer, I'm not sure how to pronounce his surname. He is spectacular. Just
he's fucking amazing. It's the feet speed.
Wow, yeah.
The feet speed is like I obviously never listened to the previous albums, so I don't know like comparison. The production on this is fucking great, right?
Yeah.
So much so that like on a lot of death metal albums in particular, it becomes so triggered and so fucking we're using like a specific mix on the drums that they can sometimes feel like they're losing a level of an organic feel. Mm-hmm. And certainly I'd be very surprised if his drum pedals aren't triggered, but it still sounded like it sounded real. It had this earthy tone to the drumming. Yeah. But I could pick out fucking everything, not to the detriment of one. And you get that, like the quicker you play, the less the less you like. There's a chance that things might bleed over. No, everything is crystal fucking clear. Which that's the first thing that kind of takes you back. And then you like none of the guitars sound like you can pick out everything. But this guy just alone is. I mean, if you've got this guy drumming, this is part of what makes great bands. Like, if you're a guitarist and you've got this guy drumming, you're made. You're getting signed. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the riffs just happen to be amazing as well.
Yeah. The musicianship across the board is excellent. The vocals, I don't know my voice went really high there.
Your voice just
the
vocals.
From Brent Turnbow, I think his name is. I loved his voice. It's really gritty. It's ferocious, but
it's got a good tone.
It's really
not like, It's not too deep. You know what I mean? It's not too kind of the kind of bass level growl, and it's weirdly not as mid range as I thought. It sits somewhere between the two, but it fits the music perfectly. It's the right tone.
Yeah, very comprehensible for a death metal vocalist as well, which I liked actually. What else did I like? Dissolve, another track that I really enjoyed. Kind of hears the band inject a little bit more, kind of almost like a kind of sinister kind of melody into the riffs. But it really kind of breaks the track up when they add these little parts in, which I thought was quite clever actually. One of my favourites though on the album was a track called Dent. It is crushing, like just bludgeoning riffs just stacked up against each other. I must have played this track about 5 times before actually going on and listening to the rest of the album. It was that good. It's just it's so clinical and precise. Like, it's still very aggressive, but and the production, as you say, it's razor sharp. It really kind of accentuates that track. And to be honest, the album kind of continues in a kind of similar vein to that. You just get a real kind of plethora of kind of well executed ideas, to be honest. Whether it's like the kind of more melodic side of the band, they do a bit more kind of melody on No Stone Sacred, or like the machine gun fire riffs on The Virvum Empowered. There's very little to dislike on this release, to be honest.
It really is. It's one of those ones where, like, on paper I should be coming at this going, Dave, there is a reason I don't listen to this sort of bit. But no, I think this is the case in point as an argument for the points I make. This is an example I would choose. You can be brutally fucking heavy, ridiculously tight and fast as a band, but still break things up. And that's the beauty of this, is that, like, the tracks flow so well into each other that by the end of it, like you say, you just feel like I could just listen to that again. You can go right back and Swarm of Fools is back on before you know it. And I think that's, but it's not like, I mean, this is not this is not music which is designed to be accessible, if you know what I mean. It's still a fucking heavy album, but in terms of that genre, there was plenty I could pick out from a musician point of view, a lot that I could appreciate in terms of what the guys are doing, and clearly really good at their craft. And like you said, vocally, I can't remember the last time I heard a kind of good death metal vocalist doing this sort of music, but you know, I could make out what he was actually singing. And that's not a trust me, I listen to plenty of bands where the vocalist is nigh incomprehensible and it works, you know what I mean? I'm just like, fuck it, it's all about the vibe and the atmosphere. But in the case of this one, it just worked really across the board. This is a remarkable album, really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. To be honest, the first couple of listens, I just kind of listened to it without looking at the tracks and stuff, just played it through. And then after that, I kind of listened to them track by track, and took a note of the track names and stuff. And to be honest, there was only a couple of tracks that didn't completely grab my attention. To be honest, for the most part, this is a thoroughly enjoyable release. Is it breaking new ground within technical death metal? Probably not, but that doesn't take away from the fact this is a very solid album for me. Rating wise, I'm sitting about a 4 out of 5, I think, for me. Yep,
I'm with you 100% as well. We are on point tonight.
We really are.
For the listeners out there, we're recording a few of these tonight, and thus far there's been no been no disagreements.
No.
Wait and see if that changes on the next one. But no, I think 4 is, like you say, there is, sometimes I think we expect, as like people that consume a lot of music, we expect what's going to be the next big thing, what they're going to bring different. There is something to be said about maybe not necessarily changing or trying to shape the genre that you're playing in, but instead just be really fucking good at what you do. And this band here, whose name I will mispronounce, so I won't. I've got it in spades. Mephitic, which is a word I can't pronounce, is an album that if you're into your death metal, you're into a bit of techie stuff, are you just like really relentless fucking listens that are just a little shade more-ish, this should be on your list for the year for sure.
Agreed. This one drops on July 24th via Unique Leader Records, and if you want to check out the band online, you can check them out at facebook.com/Ahtme KC. So that is AHTME KC. You can check out the band. Thanks for checking out this review, guys. We'll be back soon with another review. Until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye everyone.